Action Comics 1076. Mark Waid writing with Clayton Henry and Michael Shelfer on the art. So this is the issue that brings Superman back out from Krypton, which ends up being quite easy once he's got his bracelets charged up.
Yeah.
I don't know if they explained exactly how he is able to just go back, so I just kind of went with it. But
So I think the rip was still there, right? But if that was the case, did he just need to charge his bracelets?
yes, not a crack, but not Darkseid's.
Not Darkseid's crack. It was more of a rip than a crack. You know, it's Aethyr's rip.
It's a rip, a crack.
Should we just call it Aethyr's crack?
Aethyr's crack. I feel like the only difference between a rip and a crack is the type of material that is breaking apart. Because if it's a fabric, it's a rip. If it's a hard thing, it's a crack.
Yeah,
and when you're talking about the fabric of reality, I suppose the word fabric's in there. However, when Darkseid's crack was a thing, it was the same type of thing. It was a portal kind of opening.
But it wasn't just in reality. It was the entire multiverse.
Yeah, but that's still much closer to what this is than an actual.
True. I mean, you're right. I'm just looking for counterpoints at this point, because this is the first of these issues that I didn't really enjoy. Like it was fine, but it felt like a filler kind of issue where Clark's still on Krypton. He has to figure out how to get to there. Well, I actually enjoyed the Connor and Keenan side of things a little bit more than I have.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's weird calling this one a filler to me because while you may not...
Filler's not the right word.
Because while you may not enjoy the directions it takes and how it progresses, I think effectively, because it does wrap up and it's like Clark finally leaving and going home and like he gets away from here, it doesn't... That instantly makes it not fillery to me. But I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, the issue's kind of just Superman kind of pisses off Zor-El because Zor-El doesn't believe that in Jor-El's theories about Krypton, which I didn't think was a bad idea. The idea that his own brother dislikes or.
Well, I like that, and it's the pride and the ego because he knows about the climate. He knows about this. That's his realm that his brother's trying to step on. So I almost get it from that point of view. But yeah, again, filler wasn't the right word. I just threw it out there because I'm trying to say if this felt like this is like we always say it's like a middle chapter. Like not much happens and the story still moves forward. It just felt like it had to be here at this point. But yeah, and then it felt a little bit easy for Clark once he got his bracelets back. It felt like, he just went back to the place that he came from, and we're back in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, a bit easier because I mean I liked him rummaging through all the stuff like in the science locker and looking for the device that'll help charge his bracelets that he's learned about from Zor-El. And he gets caught in the outside, and I think maybe they could have made it clear. And Mark Waid can be guilty of this, of just doing stuff that's superpowery without really bothering to explain it or feel like he has to explain it. And basically this idea that he's held at gunpoint, but the leader of the council or whatever on his way out, and Superman tries to talk him down and say, hey, you need to listen to Jor-El, blah, 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 blah. And he gets shot in the back, and it destroys the device that he got to help charge his bracelets. And I immediately went, oh shit, he's back to square one. What happens now? How's he going to charge them now and get back? And then he just says in narration, that was enough. Like 30 seconds in the sun was enough, and now I can fly back. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, fair enough. I guess it's just over.
Like, but this whole entire device though was filtering red sun into yellow sun, and it did it that quickly. That was one of those things too that, I was like, oh, okay, we're just moving on now. Don't think about it.
I didn't need to have much more. I think all it needed to do was for Superman to sort of have his narration say, oh, I need to stall until this thing is charged, and maybe even give us like a little box with a loading bar in the corner of some of the panels just to say, hey, he's stalling to charge, and as soon as this hits like 50%, that's enough, he can take off. And give us like a scene or two of him actively trying to stay outside just long enough to get the thing charged. But because it just never mentions it, and it feels like it happens immediately almost, that it gets destroyed, it feels like, oh, that was really quick and easy, but fair enough.
Yeah, but I will say the page with him leaving Krypton, and it goes down and you see he's getting emotional about it. I thought that was pretty effective.
Yeah, he's got tears in his eyes as he's flying away. And then when he flies through the portal, it seems like the Phantom Zone is destroying itself, and that's your cliffhanger for the main story. Yeah, I can't say I really felt much for the Connor and Keenan story, just because it was mostly just a joke. It was just
Yeah, it was a welcome addition from the stuff that I was reading. I just them and the Coons, it's some pretty fun chemistry at play here, and the fact that they're calling Keenan a cheater because he's using his superpowers, right? While Connor is off panel battling, to essentially take command of the Coon ship. I just thought it was pretty fun and not effective, but it was just a nice change of pace in that story.
it was just too fluffy for me. I mean, just to explain what's actually happening here is that Connor goes off to fight this battle, but we don't see that. Instead, we see Keenan and the guards say, "Hey, we have to keep him, like, he's not allowed to go watch the fight." And he's like, what are you talking about? My friend's about to go and fight this like gladiatorial thing to try and save all these people and all this stuff. I should be there for it. And they immediately say that he's cheating by going. So they try and like throw him into a death pit, and Kane has to fight his way out of it. And just when he thinks that he's going to have to somehow try and help get to Connor, this subplot sort of ends for now here, with Connor showing up already wearing the big kind of like fur coat.
Cloak.
Being like, "Oh, I am now the super Kund of this species."
He's going to be the Over Admiral, but then Connor's like, it's a better name if we call it the Super Over Admiral. So when he shows up, he's like, "It's Super Over Admiral Connor Kent," and he commands you to let that man go.
Yeah, and he didn't kill the other guy. He just kind of like, he just won the fight and sort of put him in an air bubble or whatever, something. But it's mostly just the joke is that Kane wants to try and get there because he thinks he needs his help, and then Connor shows up having already won, which is fine. The funny thing is, though, is the tone of this story made it feel like I was expecting a scene where Connor realized he was in over his head and actually got the shit kicked out of him a little bit. So playing it off is like, no, he was actually just a badass and went and won without us even needing to see it. This is a case where I felt like I needed to see it to see how he like outsmarted him and how he used his powers to get out of the jam. So it felt like it felt like a case of they wanted to do the badass thing where the character just goes off panel and is like, it's like it's like a Batman thing almost, where you just have like like an elevator show up with a bunch of people lying knocked out, and it's like, I don't need to see that because it's Batman. I know he can do that. But the conflict they set up here, I kind of felt like, I need to see how Connor actually maybe struggles a little bit and then ultimately wins, or maybe even does something funny to win or whatever. But instead they do the thing where, it happens off panel, and the joke is, oh no, I won, lol. Cena wins, lol. Yeah. That's what this was.
Yeah.
So, I feel nothing.
Okay, that's fine. It was a nice welcome from the stuff I was reading on Krypton. So
I prefer the Krypton stuff, if I'm honest, but I mean, whatever. We could move on to the backup. Backup wise, if basically just Kara and the robot talking about who the prisoner is. Okay, they've killed 150 something worlds. Do we know that for sure? Is there proof? The robot says, well, I guess all the dead planets that are floating around are maybe proof. But basically the one main thing that happens here is that the prisoner comes, they go to see the prisoner, and there's like a moment where we see kind of a flashback to the prisoner floating in space with debris around them. But ultimately the big thing is that the prisoner flees to the cockpit of the ship. Kara has to tackle them and looks right into the visor, right into the mask that's making an image, and sees her own reflection in the glass. And basically, it seems like the prisoner shares a memory with Kara through the visor, like she's hypnotized by it. Because you get this sort of like thing where it's like a page split in half, with like the prisoner in one half, with the reflection of Kara in the visor, and then the other half's Kara herself. And then we see a vision of like a planet exploding, but we see what looks like multiple people wearing the same outfit as the prisoner, struggling, and that's when the planet explodes. So I would assume that the actual person responsible for the planet exploding might be this other one that's wearing the same outfit.
Yeah. Because the marks on the hands are different, right? And that's how we kind of tell them apart, right? And because I feel like we've seen one of these before. I think the one that's more like an arrow, because then it looks like the other one looks like it's
like arrow in negative space.
Yeah.
Because we see, if you go just 2 pages back, you can see it on the prisoner's hand.
Yes. Is that where I saw it? Yes, it's the negative space one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you turn the page and you get that explosion, right? So it feels like maybe they have survivor's guilt. Maybe they're not, responsible for this. Maybe they feel like they should have been able to help. But we get another split page at the end with Kara crying, and the I feel like for the first time, what the prisoner's face looks like.
Yeah, it's like the visors like
mask.
went translucent, and we can see through it and see their face, and they're actually communicating to Kara before it's too late. Kill me. So they clearly feel guilty about what's happened, but I suspect that this conflict with another of their own kind is what actually led to this disaster. And like you said, like the symbols on the hands kind of fit into each other almost, because one's like negative space, because that's why I kind of jumped to correct you a little bit, because you said arrow, and I went, well, technically the one that's the arrow is the other one.
Yes,
it's the one with the negative space where the arrow fits into that we've been following. So arrow hand, maybe we'll see them in a forthcoming backup.
Because it seems to me like that's a little bit more, the body language seems more aggressive, and it might be like they're trying to shield that person, you know, or it looks like they're trying to stop that person, or whoever the prisoner was. So yeah, but yeah, again, that last page was very, very well done to go from the split, and it's the opposite of the one from before it, right? So
Kara's switch sides,
switch sides on there. So yeah, just some really good visual storytelling happening in this,
because it definitely looks like there was a struggle between these two beings, and the one that's the prisoner, look, they were losing the fight in some way based on just that one panel of both of them.
So you think is this why Clark sent her, because she knows how to deal with survivor's guilt? Right?
Possibly, yeah.
Being that she remembers being on Krypton and Argo and all that stuff.
Yeah, she even questions that at one point, like why, you know, why am I here? Also, a little touch is during the main story, they kept using the phrase groundquakes, and I realized why. It's because, well, they wouldn't call them earthquakes on Krypton. Right. So yeah, fair enough. No, the backups continue to be compelling. If arguably this is kind of the biggest chapter of it in a while. Yeah. I feel like we got a solid sort of like beat here as to what's going on, and we don't have the details yet, but certainly this the sense of emotion from this character I feel like is pretty clear now at the very least. Yes. So, no, cool. All right. What you giving Action Comics? I'm gonna give this a straight 7. I'm gonna go 8. I think part of that's the backup sort of pulling up a little bit. In the main story on its own, it's maybe like a 7.5. I wouldn't quite call it great. I seem to like it more than you did, though. Outside of the Connor and Keenan stuff, which I guess I should probably drag it down a little bit as well, but that's fine. I'll stick with the backup. The backup was very strong. I really enjoyed the backup this time around. Yeah, backup's very good. With Kara. It's short, obviously, but solid in what it's doing.